Hello and welcome to Scrapping on the Fly. My name is Kristen and I'm just going to share this journal. It's more of a journal than a scrapbook. There are pictures in here. The most important thing for me was documenting the stories. If I was doing this now in my current scrapbooky world, I would probably have done some things different, but this is probably one of my favorite. This is the most important thing that I've created because it has my grandmother's stories in here. Over the last 2 years before she passed away, I spent every night on the phone with her, and she would tell me stories that a lot of them I'd heard before, but these I started writing them down because obviously, well, not obviously, but she was in her 90s, and we had almost lost her multiple times already, and so I had just lost my father and my aunt, her 2 children. And so I started writing down her stories because I wanted to make sure I remembered them the way she told them. So I was just having a conversation on Facebook with someone about documenting these things, and she was interested in seeing it. So like I said, definitely not my most creative, crafty things I've ever done, but the most important. This is a leather bound. I got this on Amazon. I don't know if you can see because of the lighting. It's got 2 hands, holding hands. It has this little tag here, says I love you, and a little bow, an arrow, and so you just unwrap it. So the other thing is the pictures would not be safe because they're not protected, and there may be ways to do that, but so this is the inside is leather. These are copies. Most of these are copies or duplicates. My grandmother had a ton of pictures, but a lot of them are scanned, printed pictures. That's why I wasn't terribly worried. And the other ones there were at least 2 of the originals. So it just has stories about where she was born, who she lived with, her when she was little, and the story about this little dress she's wearing. So I used these markers that came with this book. They are meant to write on black. And I took a pencil. I don't know how well you can see it. There you go. I took a pencil and a ruler and just made lines so that I would write straight, because I am that person who could never be a teacher because it would be like, yeah. So, I did use embellishments and things wherever I could to add some color and everything to the stories that she told. Mind you, she was 95 when she told me a lot of these stories, and they're like of her when she was 5 and in 3rd and 4th grade. I mean, lots of stories. Now look at that. Ain't she gorgeous? She told me stories about when she met my grandpa, and then stories about her and my grandpa. This is my grandpa. Look at that. He is such a hunk. And things like that. Stories about him being in Belgium, where he used to work. This is my great-great-grandmother, and she's pregnant with my great-grandmother at this time. And this is taken in 1903, I think. So, and she had lots of things to say about this picture, so I had to make sure it was there. And there is writing on the back, so I've used photo corners for anything that she wrote on, because my grandmother has gorgeous calligraphy handwriting, which you'll see at some point in this book. Like these are scanned pictures of my grandma and her grandparents. This is a story about their getting engaged. Mind you, my grandma was 14 when she met my grandpa, who was 21. Things were different back then, guys. My grandma sitting on my grandpa's car. Them at their wedding. My grandma in her beautiful dress. Stories she had to tell about her dress and things. This is their wedding party. Who I didn't know how else to do all this. I wanted it to be noted who everybody was. There were some pretty, well, this lady is making mean faces. Talking about how much of a party their wedding was. They were Catholic. Not that that means anything, but they were Catholic, and my grandpa's family was from Belgium, and there was a lot of beer. As far as I've been told, that's what my grandma said. So no offense to anybody, but that's what my grandma said. My grandma is pushing my dad on the swing. So here's when my dad was little. So this is the story about when my grandma went into labor. My grandpa were driving down the wrong way on the road, yelling at people out the window. Now look at that. I mean, look at that face. Looks deviant, doesn't it? It was. All of the stories about my dad are pretty funny because he was a deviant little stinker. Her daughter, my Aunt Donna, was the angel. And when I asked her to tell me a story about my aunt, she had to think about it. And this story was like the most, like she went to play at a friend's house and didn't tell her or something like that. like seriously, my dad caught the house on fire and broke windows and shot arrows into the boat, like serious business. But my aunt went to a friend's house and didn't tell my grandma. That is just funny to me. But anyway, talked about the cars that they had, pictures of my dad in their different houses. This is one of the boats that they had. Lots of stories about the boats. Because they lived in Michigan on the lake. So, I mean, my grandmother knew every address she ever had. Now, this is an original. And I don't think there's a copy, but this was like one of those things, like I had to piece the picture together. It had been torn apart. But my dad did scan all of these, so I have them scanned as well. Stories about random people that I don't even know. I made a boo-boo here. I didn't know how to fix a boo-boo in here, so I cut a piece of black paper. Can you see where it says sister? And put it on top of that. I didn't know how to fix a mistake when you were writing it on here. I don't have pages to waste. So this one's an original too. But a lot of these are people that she was like, I don't even know who that guy is. But for the most part, she knew who everyone was. Lots of stories about my great-grandmother. She had knee replacement. She smoked all the time. And there were lots of funny stories about her and her smoking. My dad and my aunt. Lots of fun stories about my aunt's pets and things like that. Because I wanted to make sure I had stories in here about my aunt. Because good gravy. All of the addresses, she remembered every single one of them. She's no longer with us, and neither are her children. So I wasn't worried about y'all knowing their addresses anymore. So these are pictures of their houses with stories about either the picture or what was happening. Because I had this many houses to document, so I wanted to make sure and find a way to do that. So I used ribbon and taped it down with a picture of something happening on either at that house or something along those lines. And stories, because she had a lot of stories, y'all. My grandma and grandpa when they moved to Kentucky. And just some more stories once they moved here. Their pets. Lots of stories about the pets. Look, a colored picture. It's my gorgeous grandpa. I love that guy. Him and his pipe. He worked at Square D. That's why he moved to Kentucky. Here they are at her retirement from when she worked at Sears. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things. She was making notes about the music in our family and wrote a note about the Family Jeans musical about my Grandma Ruth, my Grandma Jean, Donna, her daughter, my daughter, my niece, me, my sister. So she's written all these notes in her really pretty handwriting, and I know it's getting blurry, but she's really pretty. And this is at 94 years old, okay? So she had gorgeous handwriting at 94. So I didn't want to lose that, so I just made this little note and made a pocket so that I could put these in here. And I sent a picture, like I took a picture of each of these and sent them to the people, if they're still living, that she wrote that about. So some more pictures of some of their trips that they took. And about my grandpa. And then this is my daddy. And just told some stories about that. So I have more pages that go in here about my aunt and when my mom and dad got married and my aunt and uncle got married. And then she gave me this. This had this picture. You can't see, it's getting blurry. I think it's getting blurry, or maybe that's me. Anyway, this picture that my grandpa kept in his wallet all the time. So this will make it in here as well. I completed this much of it before I lost her. But I have books with more stories, and I have another, like a notebook with stories in it. And I have another one of these that has, I can't even remember what's on it, but it's the same company and the same kind of book. So, but anyway, that is my grandma's journal. And I love it, and it makes me happy, and I'm glad that I have it. I had finished as much as you've seen in January, and we lost her in March. But I did have this on display at her funeral like she asked. And I've shared it with my family for them to look over it and read the stories when they were ready. So, but anyway, that's that. So if you're interested in anything like this, I plan on doing some more documenting of her stories, but for the most part, I'm trying to stay up to date with 2023, 2022, and I'm slowly going backwards. Started in 2021 chronologically, and I'm moving backwards, so I'm up to 2017, and so that's where I'm at right now. So anyway, if you have any questions about any of this, I'll do my very best to answer. And other than that, I hope you all have a fabulous day and happy scrapping.